Hey everybody, it's Daniel from Tam Integration, and I'm here talking to my pal Kyle Cetrulo about creating conscious psychedelic events, grassroots events. Um, Kyle is in patient advocacy. He founded the International Perinatal Stem Cell Society, which advocates for patients, make sure that people can get the care that they need, which of course is a big deal in the psychedelic world, right? There's a lot of us doing psychedelic advocacy in one way or another because we know that these medicines and these sacraments do a wonderful job where other things just don't cut the mustard. And I got connected to Kyle because he decided to kind of move a little bit more into this realm, and he's putting together a conference called Rising Consciousness. It's in March in Salt Lake City, and I'm excited to go out there. I'll be sharing, and I just thought it would be nice if we talk shop. It's good for me, as an event guy, to talk events with other event guys. And so I'm glad you're here, and we can mix it up a little bit and people can watch.
Yeah,
Thanks for
well,
being here, Kyle.
thanks for having me. I appreciate it. The parallels between like the stem cell world and the psychedelic world are very similar. Most people think it's like cannabis into psychedelics, but it's actually like very similar tracks where there's a few funded companies that are in phase 2, phase 3 trials, but there's nothing that's ever been approved. So they're both non-FDA approved drugs, psychedelics and stem cells. So they have the same weight in the views of the FDA. And then there's also existing underground cultures that are operating right now as we speak.
Really? There's underground stem cell treatments.
Absolutely. I mean, there's but the stem cell world's like kind of 10 years ahead of the psychedelic world.
Got it.
How I see it. So there was a golden age of a lot of practices. Probably about 1 million people got treated by stem cells in the US. And then stem cells is a ubiquitous term, but we're talking from my perspective, like stem cells that are derived from the umbilical cord and the placenta, the perinatal stem cells. And basically a very smart attorney figured out a way to get around the FDA where you could just call your product a tissue allograft period and not talk about anything in it. And then you could go sell that to like an orthopedic knee surgeon as a tissue allograft. And then he could decide to use that tissue allograft under the practice of medicine to put it into someone's knee.
Okay, we're gonna lose the psychedelic people here in a minute.
Yeah.
But did you ever do events? Did you ever do events for that nonprofit? Like, do you have an event history?
Yeah, so that's why we're doing it in Salt Lake City, because I did 7 international meetings for the nonprofit, the Perinatal Stem Cell Society.
Oh, cool.
And we did a bunch of them at this venue in Salt Lake City. And I actually signed up for a COVID grant and committed to doing a future event during COVID. And I got a nice grant from the state of Utah to do that as well. So I have the blueprint for this venue. It's a fantastic venue. It's the entire 3rd floor of the Leonardo Museum, and has a great 200-person lecture hall. And then it has a nice like ballroom area for networking and exhibit tables, and they have good catering as well. So,
cool.
As part of your ticket, we cover lunch and breakfast both days, as well as snacks and coffee and things too. So, we have in water. I know water was some of the issues at some of the other events, but water will be plenty.
Right. And so what's nice, it's, on the topic of innovation and things, it's like a science museum dedicated to Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah, they usually have, I mean, they have other exhibits that come through there. The Van Gogh exhibit that's traveling around came through. But they have their core is sort of a children's museum based around science. So there's like a really cool wind tunnel. You can make paper airplanes and put your paper airplane in, and it will test the wind tunnel capabilities, things like that.
So this would be a perfect place for like a museum dose, like a child's museum, not suggesting anybody break the law, but like that sounds kind of perfect.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool sculptures and a lot of, I mean, anything, when you look at Leonardo da Vinci, it's always kind of on the edge of psychedelic anyway, right? That his thought process. And so there's that vibe is what it's dedicated to.
Right. You have to kind of think that the interconnectivity in his brain was probably high.
I thought, oh, yeah, I think so. Or you definitely saw lots of things developing in the future, right?
Hmm. Yeah. And so what was your process for programming?
Yeah, so I really, the energy of this coming together has been really beautiful. And when I was looking at, I have this venue, I have been, I'm personally committed to this financially. And I reached out to my stem cell board and asked for new speakers, and no one even replied. And then I reached out to the psychedelic signal chats that I'm on, and
Hmm.
I said, "Does anyone want to help me with a conference?" And about 10 people immediately replied and joined the steering committee. And we have a good core group of like 7 of us now that have been meeting every week for like 6 months preparing this conference,
Hmm.
and they really have strong connections within the space. So I look at my role as like I'm creating the space for what's going to happen here, and the steering committee is really helping me to put like the right speakers that will bring the right messaging to the
Yeah.
space. Where I'm not the expert. My skill set is bringing experts into a room and letting them share their knowledge.
Right. So I want to talk about that in a minute, but I just want to note that you had 10 people reach out and 7 of them stayed.
Well, some of them had conflicts and things, but there's
Yeah.
a group of 7 that are fully committed to like weekly talks and really putting a lot of time and energy into it, which I couldn't be doing this without their help. I mean, it's not a one-man show by any means.
Right. Yeah, that's really great to like, because attrition, like volunteer attrition can be high.
Yeah,
And the fact that most of them stuck around is like really cool.
I think they see what we're doing,
Hmm.
and it's in the energy behind it, and the message, and there's also a great need for this too, because we're focused on the guides and the sitters and the energy healers in the
Hmm.
space who actually give the medicine and hold space for that, and develop these 12-week courses that do a lot of healing, where I think a lot of these other conferences don't really focus on that portion of or segment of the field. But that, for
Yeah.
me, that's the most vibrant part of the field that's active right now. I mean, if you look at like a
Hmm.
clinical trial, that's 200 people got treatment, and that's a big news. Whereas a lot of these guides are doing 200 people on their own a year, right, or more. So I think that the active healing that's taking place right now is this population of guides and sitters and therapists, and whether licensed or unlicensed, that are very active in holding space for the healing.
Right. I definitely feel the same way. I mean, there are, the microdose.buzz people are very good at creating events for venture capitalists and investors, and then,
That was a
meet.
cool event, though. I went to that too, and it had a really good energy, and even the
Mhm.
investors were at least saying cool things on the stage, whether they follow up on them or not. But
Yeah, I'm not denigrating that. That's
I
a
know.
thing. That's a sector of the space. It's not necessarily the sector of the space that's most interesting to me personally, but if what is psychedelic if not inclusivity?
Right.
And then there's a lot of conferences that focus deeply on research and science, and that has to happen too. And I find that a bit dry. I watch a guy and he just kind of has charts on the screen about the way neurons fire, and I can't follow that.
Right.
Uh,
That we were thinking about doing a separate conference just on that,
mhm,
and more like a niche conference.
sure.
One of our members, Tyler Strauss, is really into that space in the psychedelic world, and that would be a great conference for the people who really
Mhm.
want to hear those talks. But I agree, those
Right.
are not my favorite talks either.
Well, that's the nice thing is like, it's sort of incumbent upon us to create events often about the things that we're passionate about, as opposed to sort of, what market research might say.
Yeah. I also think that as we look at the growth of the field, that like the rate limiting factor is going to be the people, like the quality, like a highly trained guide that can hold space. As more people come in to get treatments,
Hmm.
I mean, you can't like mass produce highly trained guides to hold
No.
space, and there's a limited number of that. And if anything we can do to provide resources like we're going to videotape it, our conference talks, and put them up online, that people can learn and develop greater skills that will be beneficial for more clients and patients to benefit from the medicine with with a quality guide, or helping them, because I think that's a really, for me anyway, it's a very important facet of a psychedelic trip, when its intention is to do some deep inner work.
Well, yeah, I mean, just in my own personal history, it was really an interesting reframe when I realized I wasn't recreating, I was self-medicating.
Mhm.
I just thought I was recreating. And then at some point it was like, wait, all this stuff, you need to work on this. You're avoiding this, you need to work on it. And it's a powerful moment for a lot of people. Psychedelic experiences in one way or another, very, very powerful. And then there are a huge influx of new people who probably want to get started and need, conferences provide mentorship in some way. I mean, low touch, it's not like a one-on-one mentorship, but just the ability to be in the room with people who've been doing the work and, receive some nuanced information that you're not necessarily going to get in a Forbes article, and then get more of that nuanced information just in the hallways. So much of a conference happens in the hallways.
Yeah, that's what I think is really exciting about our conference, is that the audience is going to be like really, really cool people. And there'll be a lot of time for networking. And there's a lot of time for, a conference of like 200 people is actually a great size to have follow-up conversations, and to say, oh, I need you to talk to this person here at the next break. And you don't have to get on your app and do it. You could just walk up to them, because they'll be across the room.
Yeah.
And so this venue works great for that too. So I'm really excited about that. And that was one of the reasons that I did a macro guided journey in June of 2021, and I saw that this is a vision to move this conference to psychedelics rather than stem cells during that experience. And a lot of it was just to learn about the space, but also to meet the experienced people in the space, and just start to make collaborations and friendships. So a lot of that is developing. I think a lot of in addition to all the knowledge that will be learned, I think a lot of friendships and collaborations will develop out of this conference as well, which is why it has to be in person as well. So I know that, a lot of virtual has its benefits, but it doesn't have the personal, friendship development.
We try really hard. We use like 2 or 3
hard.
different apps. It's hard. It happens. It happens. I'm still waiting for some people to tell me that they fell in love at the psilocybin summit. There have been friends, and there have been people who have gone to meet one another.
Yeah.
A bunch of people sort of did a field trip to the Las Vegas Meow Wolf together.
Yeah.
And that was
Cool.
really cool to hear about. But yeah, getting back, coming to an event earlier this year, or late last year, was so nice to kind of be in space with people again.
Yeah,
And
and we have a number of, we have a very cool sound bath planned for Thursday night.
Oh, cool.
As like the social, there's we have yoga Wednesday night for people coming in. We also have a shamanic drum ceremony to close it out on Friday, after like a embodied movement practice as well. So there's a lot of areas for dance and music and as well as sitting in the lecture chairs. So it's cool.
Maybe I'll pack a drum. Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
It's really nice to like facilitate the connections. There's something kind of really, really nice, especially when we look at the interconnectivity of the brain that's facilitated by mushrooms. We look at how mushrooms work in nature. Being a part of that in some way it's heady. There's something to it. And to realize that, sometimes it's a little messy. The jungle, like we're looking at this really nice forest behind you. It's a little messy. It's wild. Excuse me. And that's kind of one of the nice things about the psychedelic community, is that it's It's a little messy, it's a little wild. People have their different interests and their different things that they love, and they get smashed together, and that's how innovation occurs.
Yeah, I think that bringing in the speaker lineup that we have put together, I mean, there's some real powerful men and women on that from an energetic standpoint, not from like an authoritarian standpoint, but
Well, thank you very much.
yeah, their energy, yours as well, Daniel. I mean, I'm speaking about you as well. Like we have, one of the cool things for me is I, kind of launched this on a bit of a prayer, right? I mean, I didn't know anyone in the space. I'm a little bit egomaniac to try to say I'm going to put on a psychedelic conference without even knowing any of the speakers or any of the audiences, and have no email list. But here we are, and it's really coming together. And it was like the energy of it hasn't been that hard because it feels like it's the right path. So, and it's the right topics, and it's the right intention as well. It's to provide resources so people can learn more and make new friendships within this space.
What's been challenging?
Just like running any conference, there's a lot of personalities, a lot of different ways to, hold space for numerous personalities. And you mentioned the other day, like how that energy comes into you when you're holding the energy for a lot of people. But some of the challenges have been the financial side of things. We wanted to keep it a very affordable price, but we also need to, we want to offer some financial benefit, like flights and hotels and things for speakers as well, because their knowledge is not, I think I believe in there should be a fair exchange. It's not just taking advantage of someone or asking someone to give without reciprocating. So there's that element of like, we want these really high education speakers, and then we want to keep it very affordable for like the van life guide. And I think we're hitting the right medium on that. And obviously more sponsors would be better, because that always helps, right? I mean, that covers all those two things. So, but I think as we develop,
so how do you stay grounded in the face of intense personality?
well, I really have been working on like using like my masculine energy to support like the female energy as
Sure.
this like energies come together. So I kind of just go rely on that and try to create the container. And then what happens in the container, I don't try to control, right? As long as the container is safe and, consensual, and everyone knows that it's like a safe place. If there's venting and whatever, and it's happened in the container, and at the end though, it's always closes out with love, right? So we whatever the working process is, it's not a personal process, it's a work process. And then you realize that like the steering committee members are like my family now, so we're going to have some intense discussions, but you don't hold that, you against them, you listen to them and hold space, and then you realize that you love them, and you go on to the next topic when whatever was coming up is, a lot of times it's just letting people have a voice. And once they have a voice, that dissipates whatever's going on. But I mean, the intent, that the intensity of it's not like it's been a real challenge. I mean, the people have beautiful intentions and hearts. Everyone just wants to have the best possible event, and that's the motivation rather than anything else.
Can I tell you one of our policies at TAM events? And anybody who's watching this, don't do this. But we have the ability, since it's virtual, we can give a certain number of free tickets away. We give away a lot of free and low cost tickets. And one of our policies is that anybody who writes me a mean, terrible email telling me that I'm a terrible person and I'm doing it all wrong and my motivations aren't good, they get a free ticket.
That's good to know. Now that it's up on the web, I think you're going to get a lot of hate.
On the web. Well, I got to tell you is that primarily, someone is like, you don't care about people and this and that, the other thing, and your event is stupid anyway, and who would ever want to come anyway? I mean, like, I hear you. Here's a free ticket. I hope you come and enjoy yourself. 9 times out of 10, that person is in a really bad place. I've had people come back to me after that happens, and they're like, I'm struggling with addiction. I'm a combat veteran. Things have been terrible for me. And like the fact that you met my intensity with kindness, like, is almost bringing me to tears. And so it's just sort of like, it's so easy to fight fire with fire, but that just is going to burn down the whole world.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I think that, you never know what someone else is going through at that moment, right? And everyone else is in their own realities.
Mhm.
And you
You
always
can usually guess that it's bad, though. You can usually guess that it's not good.
right,
You
but
never know.
particularly when someone is, coming, at you in a more aggressive way, then the best thing to do is what you did is provide, to give them a voice and come back with kindness, right?
Yeah. And sometimes you need a little boundary, but you don't have to necessarily start with that from a stranger.
We haven't had unfortunately, I mean, I don't even think of one example that I've run into around this event yet. So, it's not a present reality for me.
Right.
I think you've been doing it a longer time, maybe. But I'm glad that there's a steering committee to help me keep me in check too, because my tendency would be like to give the show away. Oh, everyone can come for free, and of course I'll cover your flight from Australia, no problem. Like, just send me the bill, and then the bill comes in, and I'm like, right?
Yeah.
So even if someone wants to speak, I refer that to the committee. I don't have to tell them no. Yes, I have a, it's like going up to the board, right? I can't make that decision without talking to the board. So you need to have a board. It's really helpful structure. But on the more positive side of things, I'm really excited that we have been able to create space for a lot of women voices in women topics as well. We have a women's health panel, which is one of the highlights of the whole program for me. We have a bunch.
And those are some of my favorite people. My Mama Ayana and Michaela have both spoken at my events, and they're phenomenal. They're just like,
Grandma Jyoti Ma from one of the Council of Grandmas is there.
yeah, she rocks too. Yeah, she's amazing.
Their presence is so appreciated, and so much gratitude for the energy that's going to be in the room is going to be really palatable, and it's going to be all focused on loving the divine feminine and learning about that through psychedelics, and I guess the connection to the male energies as well. So it's like there's a really good mix of where we're headed.
Which is nice. I mean, that's the energy of, that's the energy of integration circles as well. It's just, like just being receptive. It's like the medicine really does ask us to drop into our feminine and just kind of receive the downloads in a lot of ways. It's very, very sweet to make it explicit in an event, to really kind of name it and address it.
I think the two go hand in hand, right? I mean, to have men move into their masculinity and to be able to hold, like, respect and hold space for the feminine energies is we need much more of that too, right? So it's it's supported, but it's also using that energy to prop ourselves up, right?
Yeah, I mean, I do tend to, I like to be able to do both. I feel like if I was like 25 years younger, I'd probably be non-binary, but at this point, just whatever. But it's really, and it's,
you get to decide that, right? That's the choice. It's not a
boring. I mean, it's an interesting thing to think about now, that this sort of these sorts of thoughts about sort of tweaking genders is very interesting to me, and it's really interesting to see some of the psychedelic voices who do so, and maybe I'll introduce you to some of them for Rising Consciousness 2023.
Sure, yeah,
because
I think we're gonna have to keep going and have I don't know, I like to think maybe the next one might be like sort of like 1,000 person like music event kind of thing with some talks, get some bands and some DJs and drums and do it in like tents, and I don't know. That's sort of where would be really cool. I don't know.
Well, that's what Rick is doing. I should have gotten Rick here too. Dr. Rick is doing a thing up in Vermont, on the land in June. And we were talking about, what to do by the bonfire every night.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to make that one in Stowe. It's in June in Stowe, Vermont. I'm not sure the exact dates, but it should be a great one. And the
solstice, basically, summer solstice.
Yeah, the professor has been doing a lot of great things in Michigan as well. Smaller events, but also for guides. We're that's one of the things that's great. I'm gonna chat with just those two guys about how we can support each other and how our events are not competitive. They're they're partnerships, really. I mean, we're all trying to have the same goal, and that's one thing that we're really working to develop. I think one of the things that is a great potential vehicle is we have an ethics workshop as well, and there's some just naturally occurring energetic talks around what, like, a code of ethics that is alive, not just a piece of paper, and how to develop that, and how to anything we could do to provide more safety for both the clients and the guides, and create a more logical way of interacting that everyone understands where appropriate roles and behavior are, would be something you could.
I love the masculine language and the very masculine dance you did.
The robot.
Yeah. I'm sorry, please, but you're right.
I also don't. I have so much respect for the bravery of people who hold that space, but it's out of my comfort zone. So I'm not looking to like be a guide myself. I see one of our speakers, Nicole Lilly, and really put like my role is like the outer realm of the village defender, right? And what happens in the teepees in the village behind me is I just keep the overall village safe, and then the teepees are safe, right? And I don't need to know what's really going on in the teepee, because I know that it's safe, because I know the people who are in there are doing things correctly, right?
It reminds me, there's this poem that I read once upon a time called "I Stand by the Door." And it was kind of like what you were saying. It's like, if somebody's looking for the door, I'll help you find the door. It's like, I've been in there, I know it's in there, but for now, this is I stand by it for others, which is a powerful thing to be doing, and I get that. I get that energy, and it is nice to hold that for people. It sort of reminds me of, I'm just thinking about chopping wood. It's like I'm getting this visual of chopping wood. The sweat lodge is going on inside, but the sweat lodge, there's a fire going on in there. They need wood. Someone's got to chop it. The person chopping the wood can't be in the lodge.
Right. At least in the first round.
Yeah, I mean, there's always another sweat,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so the conference is taking place March 9th through 11th, Salt Lake City. We're definitely going to sell out, so I encourage people to not wait to get the tickets. It's a 200 max capacity, and that includes about 30 speakers, so it's really about 175 attendees. We still have a ways to go on that, but when we really put our put the what's coming in motion, we'll have a sellout venue. So I know that a lot of people in this space seem to wait to the last minute, but it won't really be a viable option if you do that, unfortunately, for you.
And I'm really looking forward to the bakery across the street from the Leonardo. This is one of the things when I'm going to a new town, when I'm going to a new neighborhood, I get onto, the computer and see what there is to eat.
Yeah, you go after the macaroons, you said?
The macaroons. I mean, there was a scone that looked pretty good. It looked like they did a nice job with everything. So, I'll be there for a couple of days. I'll try a couple of different things. But that's some of my grounding. That's how I ground, is to see where I want to know where I'm going to eat.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have breakfast. We have a good breakfast. I mean, it's like bacon and eggs and that sort of thing for breakfast.
Sure.
And then we have bagels at the break, and then we have a lunch as as a vegetarian option, and then another option as well. So it's they do weddings there, so it's a good catering setup. I mean, it's not like you're really like just trying to think of that event in the Caribbean that got canceled and they gave them like a
Fire
piece of cheese.
festival. We're not doing Fire Fest.
No,
That's excellent. I'm too old for that kind of thing.
I know. I'm not quite there yet, but I'd like to go to like the Grateful Dead in Mexico or something like that. Would be really fun.
Well, I mean, there were times when I went to see the Grateful Dead and I slept in vans, or on the floor of a hotel room, and that was fine. It was fine when I was 18 years old or 25 or 27, but I'd prefer to just have my own bed at this point.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
I sort of paid my dues on the floor space.
Yeah, now you provide the floor space, right?
I might, depends. I don't really want people on my floor either. I paid my dues with giving people floor space as well.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to come. It's like hopefully everybody finds the accommodations that work for them and they come and have an awesome time. And I appreciate you chatting with me for a little bit.
Yeah, thanks for this opportunity. It's always good to talk with you. And thank you for all the work you do. And thanks for giving me a voice to share about the conference. So I'm really excited.
Are there any other thoughts that you want to share with the people? Are there any questions you have for me about anything before we go?
No, I don't think we pretty much covered it. I mean, I think it's going to be a really beautiful event, and encourage everyone to come out and join us, March 9th through 11th in Salt Lake City, and really, come into this energy space with us and spend a few days with some beautiful people.
Yeah, a few days with some beautiful people. All right. Thank you, everybody. I guess click like and subscribe. Be well.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks. Thank you.